Hello, good morning. I guess it's probably not morning for you when you're watching this, but it is week 4, day 3, upper body, shoulder focus. It is 5:45 a.m. We are here, the weather is turning, feeling pretty good. Quick check-in overall, weight loss going about as I expected it. We're down to we do not weigh 500 pounds. 324 as of Friday. I have not weighed myself since. What else is there to say? I mean, things are going okay. Hunger levels pretty decent. I have not had really any intense cravings that I feel like I can't handle. I am eating a good mix of not just macronutrients, but micronutrients as well. Getting in more fruits and vegetables than I did in my younger days. So overall, I feel pretty dang good about where my nutrition is at. And now it's just kind of working the process. I would like things to move faster, obviously, but at this stage, at this point in my life, I think it's easier to be in a little bit narrower of a calorie deficit and lose the weight a little bit slower than it is to, I guess, push myself more into the hunger zone that I have found in the past has offered the opportunity for binges, for, just days where I'm off my diet completely. And with the extra added stress of the full-time parenting and the business and everything like that, I'm not fresh out of college when I had my first successful weight loss journey. I could just really focus on just not eating. And first of all, I don't think that was too healthy. But second of all, there's so much more going on in my life personally that I didn't need to be able to put something on autopilot and just let it go. So I just have to sit in that process for as long as it takes. I mean, I'm going to go. I didn't really have an end cap when I started this, but I think I'll probably go on to maintenance on January 1st, regardless of where I am with the weight loss. But who knows? We'll see. That's your weight loss update. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good about the program. We are jumping into the second 3-week wave. So we've reduced our rep ranges. We're down to 10 reps on the primary big movements. I think it starts at RPE 6, and then we go 6, 7, 8. Or maybe it starts at 7 and we go 7, 8, 9. Not 100% sure. Haven't looked that far forward. Overhead press today, one of my favorite exercises that I don't really get to do that often because it's not a huge powerlifting staple. But for me personally, I found so much benefit in overhead press. I will say the one thing, my lower back in overhead press in the past couple of weeks has been feeling just a little bit uncomfortable. And I sat in a movie theater for 2 movies yesterday, so I didn't get a ton of movement. So we're gonna have to pay attention to that as we go, but let's warm up. Let's see how we feel. That's it. I don't have a third thing, but I was making the 3 with my hands. So normally with overhead press, my first warm up would be 135. But since this is more of a high volume, less of a high intensity type program, like usually if I was starting with 135, that would be my top set would be around 185 to 200 to 205 for reps of 3 to 5. This is reps of 10. So figure start at 95. And then the top set, it is RP 7, so the top set will probably just be 135. Obviously what I like to do is kind of get a burn or get a little bit of blood flow with just the bar. So I did 15 reps with just the bar, just to kind of wake the shoulders up. Warm-ups are interesting like that. Everybody has their own process. I guess I'll do this set and then kind of talk through my process, because I think there could be some value in there if you haven't heard me talk through it. All right. That's right about where we think it should be. Okay, warm-ups. How nitty-gritty do I want to get about this? If you're warming up for your traditional bodybuilding type movement in your traditional bodybuilding type rep range, so I'm talking 8 to 12 reps, 8 to 15 reps on like a leg press, hack squat, lat pull down. You know, if that is your first move of the day, you want to just get some blood flowing. What I normally do is half of the reps with 2/3 of the weight for 1 or 2 sets. I was not a big believer in warming up for bodybuilding movements when I first started. I was like, the movement will be the warm up. I think that there is a ton of value in not only getting like the musculature warm, but kind of repping the movement, starting to warm up your mind-muscle connection, warm up your mind as instead of just the body, right? So all that type of stuff, I think there's a ton of value in that. You know, from watching like professional bodybuilders train, most of them will get a warm-up set or 2 before they get to their top working weight. You get a little extra volume, nothing to sneeze at, but also once you get to, you know those weird feelings when you're in your first working set? You can kind of avoid those. So you know your foot placement in a leg press, you felt out if there's any like aches and pains. I would just recommend just to do 1 or 2 warm-up sets with your bodybuilding type movements. Now for powerlifting, I think I was gonna say that it's more for injury prevention, but we can't really 100% know that it's for injury prevention. I mean, it's not gonna hurt in terms of injury prevention, right? So if I'm doing movements that in the past have caused me a lot of pain, for me personally, that's squat and that's deadlift, I like to do, it's very subjective, but it's as many warm-up sets as I need to feel ready. And on a specific day, that could be 5 or that could be 2. It also depends on what the top set is. If I'm going for a single, what I like to do is 1 general warm the body up type. So that's usually rep ranges between 5 to 10. And then we, kind of focus ourselves down to the point where if I'm doing a top set heavy single at like RP 8, 9, I'm probably doing like 3 to 4 warm-up singles with jumps of anywhere between 15 to 30 pounds, maybe 5 to 12 kilos as I jump up. I think with that specificity of a top set single, you have to be 100% sure, or as close to 100% sure as you can be, that you are warm and primed and mentally ready for that style, right? So this is somewhere in the middle. This isn't completely like machine, turn your brain off, just push weight, because it is a barbell and you do have to have proprioception. You do have to understand the whole body, how you're standing, how you're squeezing your glutes, bracing your lower back, all that type of stuff. But it's not the, balls to the wall, high intensity single. So all that to say, 1 warm-up set or 2 warm-up sets here. We're gonna jump to a 135 and we'll see how that feels. Hopefully you got something out of that. If you're not warming up, I would recommend that you do warm up. Even a little bit helps. Just throw that in, see how you feel. I almost did the set without recording it. You'd think after, 2 years of making vlogs that I would feel a little bit more prepared. I forgot the clips too. Man, I'm all over the place. Didn't feel too off balance. I would say that was a pretty accurate intensity rating. Yeah, I mean, there's always the temptation to go a little bit heavier. But I think because it's the first week on a new wave reset, we can live with 135 for 10. If I'm being completely honest, could have probably gotten 5 more reps there. So I'm still not really nailing the RIR, reps in reserve concept with this bodybuilding stuff. I think part of that is just like a mental block because I haven't trained like that. so that I don't really relish that like burn, close to failure feeling. That's something that I've got to get more familiar with and let my body kind of guide the reps in reserve rather than my mind. I just have such preconceived like stop gaps or like hard caps in my mind of like, this is 135, an RP7 should be 10 reps. And then I do it and my body's like, nah, you could have done way more than that. You know, I've been doing this for going on 5 years now, so there's always something to learn and perfect. Every opportunity in the gym is an opportunity to get just a little bit better with a concept or with a movement. That's part of the reason why I keep coming back. Sure, it's fun to get strong and build muscle, but even knowing that perfection is impossible, that process of trying to approach perfection for me personally is one of the main drivers. So we'll just keep that in the back of our head. All right, it's programmed, I think 85% of this for our back downs. This will probably be the last set that I film on overhead press. I've taken up a lot of time, which is good, but I do need to get through the workout in an expedient manner. The problem is when I'm not filming, I have such a hard rest time clock on that I feel like when I do film, I miss out on a little bit of that. Like I set a timer, 1 minute on the machine stuff and a minute 30 on the bigger movements. And obviously I'm taking like 5 minutes when I'm talking to the camera. So all that stuff is factored in to, you know I'm not gonna get the best workout imaginable on days when I'm doing a vlog, but the calculation in my mind, there's more value for the audience when I'm actually talking through stuff, and hopefully you guys are picking up little tips and stuff. So I'm willing to kind of mess with my own progress for that end. That feels good. One thing I'm really trying to do with back off sets of push movements specifically is really work on that explosion coming out of the hole. I think that that's something that I have been very lax about, and that carries over to my bigger movements, especially on bench, but also on my overhead. You know, just kind of not being lackadaisical, but not pushing the first third of the movement with intent. And that's hard to train when you're under heavier loads. So I'm not like super upset that I haven't been doing that in the past, but I do think this offers an incredible opportunity with the back down work to really just fire. And I think hopefully practicing that will then carry over, and that will become ingrained in part of the movement pattern when I get to heavier loads, that I'm doing that same thing. Just trying to eke out little bits of advantage every here and there. You know, one of my big goals, I think for next year, is to try and hit like a 245, 255 overhead press. The most I've ever done, my 1 rep max was 225, but I was, let's see, this was, I mean, I guess I was probably lighter than this, now that I think about it. This was 2 years ago, and this was pre a lot of the shoulder pain that I've had. And I wouldn't say it was the cleanest rep of all time. So I think 245 is definitely in there if I practice and I rep it out. And also, I get a little bit stronger in the core and the bracing. So that's one of the goals, but fun to practice that type of stuff with lighter weight so that hopefully it carries over to the heavy stuff. All right, we're gonna move to rear delt flies and get on with the rest of the workout. I know I promised rear delt flies, but I forgot about the seated overhead press. Now, as it's written in the program, this is the last exercise, but I take a little bit of liberties with some of my programs, some of the written programs on Boost Camp, which you can try, by the way. Link in the description. You get 2 weeks free if you use my code. Man, I got tied up in the ad and I didn't even remember what I was saying. Oh, workout structure. You can follow the programs as they're written, totally fine. And honestly, I think that you should, if you are within your first year to 2 years in the gym training. You don't want any extra stuff, detritus, swirling around you. Just do the program as it's written, put forth the best effort you can, grow, but always keep in the back of your head, ask yourself the reason why things are programmed out this way. For me, personally, what I like to do is go big to small. That's the power lifter in me, right? Because usually my accessories, not to say that they're unimportant, your accessories are incredibly important, but they are not the main thing that I'm in the gym for. So when I come in the gym, I want to start with my squat work because I compete in the squat. If you are a bodybuilder and you're getting judged on the density, the thickness, the shape of your quads, there may be a better tool, not to say that you can't squat, but you may want to start with your hack squat or your leg press to get the best work done when you're freshest in the gym. I cannot get the pursuit of strength out of my training. That will always be, first and foremost, the most important thing for me. So when I'm on a bodybuilding program like this and I see that seated overhead press with dumbbells is at the end of the workout, my brain says, I would probably get more value in doing it second after the bigger overhead press movement. Just personal preference, right? So you got to ask yourself, what's the primary reason for you to be in the gym? What's the primary reason for you to be in the gym today? Is it a technique day? Is it a strength day? Is it a hypertrophy day? All this type of stuff. And build your workout according to those needs and wants, because the energy that you have is finite on a given day. And sometimes when you're, gassed and you just feel like you got no glycogen left in your system and you jump to a very important exercise for technique purposes or for strength purposes at the end of the workout, you're not going to get as much out of it. Just my 2 cents, just the way that I do things. But the take-home message is the workout has to serve what the overall goal is. I think it's something so incredibly important to ask yourself the question, what is the overall goal for this program, for this training week, for this training day, for this exercise? Answer that set of questions, and that will lead you into program building. That is the first thing that you need to ask yourself, and that is your lodestar, your guiding principle as you go throughout a program, right? Not enough people are doing that, and I think that that is a detriment to their overall training. All right. Whew. 15 there. Feels pretty good. I dropped the weight just a little bit to 45s because I was noticing a little bit of discomfort towards the last 2 weeks of training with this exercise in my right shoulder, which is my problem shoulder. So, I just figured drop it down, do the best you can, see where that gets you. But I think the instability of the dumbbells can sometimes cause me to, I don't even know if you can see, over-rotate backwards, lose a little bit of that shoulder position, and that's when I start to get some pain down here towards the terminal end of the movement range. One thing, I think it can be a little confusing with dumbbell shoulder press, like where are you supposed to stop? Because I've seen people, stop above their head, and then I've seen people go like super, super low. God gave you ears for a reason. And it's not just to listen to sick tunes. I'm losing my mind. I would say when you're using your dumbbells, the bottom of your ear is probably a really good place to stop. Because down here, it just feels superfluous. And if you're up here, you're not really getting the most out of the movement. So to the ears, to the bottom of the ears, to the earlobes, and then coming back up, I think it's probably your best bet. Again, This is 5% stuff. Don't worry about it if you're just starting out, but these are the little incremental things that help with growth and change as you get further and further in your lifting journey. Machine rear delt flies. I'm trying to mimic the same position on this that I do with the dumbbell. So instead of like traps up by your ears and kind of short arming it, I like to think about the cue, putting my traps and my shoulder blades in my back pocket so that I can have long arms. And the initial movement begins with the rear delt. In all my years of training, of coaching, the rear delt has been probably one of the hardest, that and hamstrings, probably the two hardest muscle groups for my clients to get a connection to, get a mind-muscle connection to, get a feel for. Now, I wonder if that's because like you can do the exercises with other muscle groups, like with the rear delt fly, you can get through it just by doing shrugs and pinching your shoulder blades together, and you're still gonna get a little bit of rear delt development. Not to say that you're gonna miss it completely, but I do think that there's value in learning to isolate the the rear delt. And I have found that the shoulder blades in the pocket cue and just kind of feeling what straight out to right here feels like. Maybe not so much on a machine, but with a dumbbell, you can really start to feel the actual rear delt muscle begin to engage. And then you just take that same feeling over to all of your rear delt work. And it's not perfect. I mean, you find times in your training where you feel a muscle really well and then maybe you lose feeling of it, and it's really something you got to stay locked in with it, but it can be very difficult. I also find that when I'm super focused on powerlifting, like maybe not in meet prep, but like in an off season where powerlifting is still my main focus, that I just drop all pretense of rear delt work, and I don't think I should do that. My shoulders have gotten a ton healthier because of the inclusion of rear delt work, pretty much on every shoulder day. So I don't know, maybe food for thought for you if you're dealing with a lot of shoulder issues. Not bad, but even throughout the exercise, I can feel myself trying to shrug up. So it's a constant reminder for me. All right, we got one more exercise, the cable lateral raise. I will talk to you when we get over there. Oof. We've reached the end. An AMRAP on the cable lateral raise. What I've been doing on this one is first set 20 pounds higher than my back down sets, but doing an AMRAP on all 3 sets. I just find that's a good way to kind of burn out as such, bro terminology, but hey, I'm half bro. Good way to burn out with heavier weight, 50s, and then I find that I get more value dropping down to 30, doing my AMRAP and trying to either match reps or beat reps. Some of you may be rejoicing that I have gone to the biomechanical staple known as the cable lateral raise, and I'm here to tell you, there's no real reason why. Do not be dogmatic about your exercise selection. Just don't do it. It only hurts you. If you fall into the camp of only doing big barbell movements because you want to feel like a man, you're missing out on individual isolation exercises. If you fall into the camp of only doing isolation, pure biomechanical, science-based lifts, you're also missing out. We have a wealth of knowledge surrounding most every exercise ever ingeniously invented by man. Why wouldn't you use all of them to the best of your ability? Get out of here with that. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Whew. Woof. Okay. Honestly, I think that was probably the closest I've ever come to actually doing a pure AMRAP. So that was good. We got 10 reps. Again, like I said, with the leg extension, starting with the weaker side. This is my injured side, or my side that gives me trouble. So I always like to start with it. Let this one set the pace. All right, that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments or jump in our Discord. Again, the Boost Camp link is down in the description. Give that a go if you're looking for a program. I recommend Raider if you're looking for something lighter with a bodybuilding flair. This has been a really fun program for me. What else? Nothing. Get strong and stay strong.